Alright, so in this video, I'm going to do a quick run through the STAAR released from last year. So I'm going to go to the Texas STAAR practice login, and I'm going to go to STAAR release test. I want to make sure that my student grade level is the EOC, and I'm going to select the STAAR 2024 Algebra 1 release test. And, oops, no, I don't want it. I just want to go there. Okay, so I'm going to go through this really quick. I'm going to go through all the entire test, and I'm basically going to answer all of the questions that I can answer without doing any calculations, all right? So, first one, okay, I don't really technically have to do any calculations, but I'm going to go ahead and answer question number 1 because it's a really easy question to handle. I'm just going to look at and go to my calculator, go to y equals. I'm going to hit my TID4. I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to put the number underneath the radical, which is 45, and then I'm going to divide that by x. That's going to give me all the factors. Now I'm going to look at my answer choices, and I'm looking at the number that's in the radical. So the first number that we see in the radical is 3, and I'm going to go to 3. The x value is 3. If you notice, when the x value is 3, I do not have a perfect square, so I know that my number and my answer choices is not going to be A or B. So now my answer choice, I know I'm going to go to number 5, and I'm going to think, all right, so I do have a perfect square there of 9, and that's the perfect square of 3 when it comes out. Now, close. If you look here in front of the radical of the original question, it had 7. So if the 3 comes out, 3 times 7 is going to give me 21. So my answer is D. So yes, there was some calculations on that one, but I wanted to go ahead and do it because it was quick, easy calculations. All right? All right, so we're going to go to the next one. And this question, I do have to do some calculations. So I'm definitely going to come back to this question at the end of the test. Same with this one. I have to do some calculations. So I'm going to go ahead and skip it. This question, I don't have to do any calculations. It says, which graph has no real zeros of the graph? So if I look at my answer choices, they all intersect the x-axis except for answer A. And with the quadratic, or really actually with any equation on a graph, if we do not cross the x-axis, we do not have a 0. All right, question number 5, I can also answer this without doing any calculations. I'm looking at the number in front of the parentheses, 1,550. I'm also looking at the number inside. Now, the 1,550, that is where we have an initial investment, or we have a deposit. So if we look at our first answer choice, A, it says the investment in the account was 1,581. It's not true. Our investment in the account was 1,550. The amount invested increases 102% each year. No, it increases by 2% each year, which the answer D has 2% in it, but it says decreases. That number inside the parentheses says 1.02, so that lets us know that we're increasing, and so our answer has to be C, which matches that initial deposit and the number in front of the parentheses of 1,550. All right. I kind of have to do some calculations with this one too, but again, they're really easy calculations, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I need to think about the power rule. Now, to remind yourself on here, on the STAAR reference material, you do have your power rules here. And I'm specifically looking at the power of a power rule, which says when I have a to the m to the n power, I need to multiply those exponents. So if you look at the very first parentheses, you have 6x squared y to the second power. I need to distribute that 2 to the 6. So then that becomes 36, all right, when I distribute that 2 to that 6, because that becomes 6 times 6. Then it's times or divided by 1/3, which gives me 12. But look at that other set of parentheses in front. There's a coefficient of 2. So then that becomes 2 times 12, which gives me 24. So that eliminates A, and that eliminates B. Now, we could have also not even had to have done any of those calculations to begin with as well. When you think about the number 4, probably maybe what they might have thought is 4 would be the answer if you did not do that 6 to the second power. But if you realize their number is going to be much larger, and you might be able to eliminate it that way. Now let's look at our x variable. So we have x to the 7th and x to the 12th. All right, so I need to take that 2, x to the second power, times 2. When power rule says we multiply the exponents. So that becomes x to the 4th. Now, the second parentheses has x to the 3rd. So that becomes 4 plus 3, which gives us 7. And that is our answer choice B. So I had to do some minor calculations and had to do a little bit of thinking, but I figured that question would be go ahead and do it and get it out of the way too. All right, this one, technically you don't have to do any calculations. We know that our slope is going to be positive. When your B term in standard form is negative, you automatically know that your your slope is going to be positive, because it's asking for what is the rate of change, which is the same thing as slope. So I can eliminate A and B. Now, the number on top is going to be the number that's next to the x, because you're going to divide by the y value, the coefficient with the y, when you move that x term over. So your slope would be positive 5/8. And then some of the other videos I've gone in more detail on how to get that. So if you want to go over that and review that, and then another time, by all means, I have the link for that video as well. I have to do some calculations on this one, so I'm going to definitely come back to that. This one, we don't have to do calculation, but it's a real easy one, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to change it to the Desmos graphing calculator, and I'm going to put in my equation, negative x squared, and then it is plus 60. All right, so there's also a couple thinkings here. I'm just showing you 2 ways to do that. So I'm looking for that top part, because we're looking for, the question's asking for the range. The range is your y value, so that's going to be a minimum or a maximum. So then I know that I'm going to have a maximum value, so that means all my y values are going to be smaller than that maximum value that I had on my graph, which is there at 900. So that is my answer choice D. Now, you could have eliminated A and B. And really, if you think about it, you can even go ahead and eliminate C. So the reason you can eliminate A and B is because it is a quadratic. Because it's a quadratic, it's going to have a minimum or maximum. Now, we can also eliminate C without even putting it in our calculator, because it's a negative value. So that means I have a what I like to call a sad parabola. So it's a parabola arrow pointing down. So that means I'm going to have a maximum value. If I'm going to have a maximum value, then all my range is going to be smaller than that maximum value. Number 10, we definitely have to do some calculations. So I'm going to go ahead and skip it and move on. Come back. All right, so it's asking which ones are not true. So I'm going to do a strikeout. We do have the number in front of your parentheses when you have a exponential function. Exponential functions are functions that are to the power of x. And this exponential function, the number in front, that will be your y-intercept. It has the value of 16, so A is out. It says it's decreasing for all values of x. That number inside the parentheses, the base with the exponent, is smaller 1, so it is decreasing, so that's true, so it's out. It says the graph has a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. If there's no plus or minus to that first term, and when you have an exponential function, you will always have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. The other videos, I go over what a horizontal asymptote is. So that is true. So by default, our final answer is C. All right, there's no calculations this. It's already in slope-intercept form for me, so I'm going to go ahead and graph it. I have a y-intercept of -2, and I have a positive 1/2 slope, so that means up 1, and then I'm going to go right 2. Now I'm going to select the solution set portion, and it says the y is greater than the values of 1/2 x minus 2. So whatever value of x that I put in, the y values is going to be larger, so that is going to be above my boundary line. So it is going to be that side of the graph. If it happened to be the other way, it would be on the other side. I have to do some calculations, so we're going to come back. Do not absolutely have to do any calculations for this video, because all my answer choices are in slope-intercept form, so that makes it even easier for me. I'm going to eliminate the ones that have the wrong y-intercept. That has a y-intercept of -5. So B and D are out. So now we are down to A and C. All right, our slopes, both our slope choices are negative. Our slope is negative. So I just need to get the right rise over run. Now, when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at a nice perfect point. I have a perfect point there at x is -3. Then I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go to the right 3 at a y-intercept of -5. So that means my slope is going to be -5/3. Again, this says which graph value represents the two hikers have the same distance at the start of the trail. So you're looking at where they intersect. That's between 1 and 2. The only answer choice it has between 1 and 2 is the 1.3. So that is, of course, our answer. I'm going to definitely have to do some work on this one. So I'm going to come back to it. I don't have to do work on this one. I'm looking for the domain and the range. The domain is the left to right. So that means I have a minimum x value of 2. So if you look at the domain part on a B, B has the number 2 to 5. If you look, it has a max value, x value of 5. So that's our first choice. Now we're going to look at our range. Our range has a minimum value of 1. I'm looking at the y value. That is our second answer choice. We're done there. We've answered that question. We have to do some work on this one, so we will come back. We have to do some work on this one as well, so we'll come back. All right, which one is represents association but not causation? The answer is right there, right off the bat. When the number of spectators at a football game increases, the number of wins for the home team increases. There's an association, but it's not just because there are more spectators, that doesn't mean the home team's going to win, right? That's what causation means. It's going to cause it to happen. For example, B, the more gallons of water you put in an aquarium, the weight of the aquarium is going to definitely increase. It's a direct cause. The amount of time athlete runs increases, the distance she runs increases. When a charge of a cell phone battery increases, the number of minutes the phone can be used increases. This may look difficult and might be tricky, but it's not. This is just a transformation question. You've got your parent function, x squared, and to create the graph shown. So the f is the parent function is the dotted line, and the g is the transform line. We are shifting to the left, so the number inside the parentheses has to be positive. Remember, it's opposite what you think. So C and D are out. Okay, now if you look at the answer choices left between A and B, the only difference between A and B is there's basically a quote-unquote slope change of 2 in front of the f of x plus 3. That means, or not, that means that the graph would be steeper than the parent function. If you notice, the parent function is wider than the graph of g. Since it's wider, that means that there was a change to that slope. So our answer is going to be D. A would be if the width of the graph remained the same. We don't have to do calculations, but we do have to do some thought process here. They want you to look at this because you're looking at 2 points. They want you to do the x and y intercepts. So if you think about this and you cover up, I'm just going to do a graph draw. And I'm going to make the transparency all the way. Okay. And then draw. If I cover up the x, all right, that means the x value is 0. The y value is going to be 6 divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 is going to give me a value of 2. So that means I have a y-intercept there at 0, 2. Now I need to do the x-intercept. So that means the y value is covered up. So that's going to be 6 divided by 2, which is now 3. So then I have a x-intercept of 0, 3. That's all you got to do on that question. And we are done. This one doesn't need calculations either. We know that we're talking about a number of pool hours and we have a limited amount of time that you can rent in the pool. So our domain is not going to be all real numbers in any way, shape, or form. So our answer C and D are out. Now, if you look at our answer choices, time is always going to be the domain. Time is always going to be related to domain. So A has 110, which is the cost rented. Cost should be dependent on the number of hours that we're spending on the pool. So that means the range is going to be dependent on the domain. So our answer is B because we can rent it for 1 hour. All right, next choice, we're going to have to do some calculations, so I got to skip it. This one, we don't have to do a calculations either. We have a minimum, so I'm going to drag my minimum. And that minimum is going to be a y value, not the x value, the y value there at -4. We are done. We do have to do some calculations on this one, so I'm going to come back. I don't really have to do calculations on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and answer this question. I'm going to eliminate the answer choices that don't have a y-intercept of 2. So that's A, and that is B. So the remaining answer choices, I have C and D. The biggest obvious differences are one is increasing, the other one is decreasing. It says the function increases at a rate of 50%. So that means that I'm going to choose my answer C because the function, the graph is going up. That is, the values of x are increasing, the values of y are also increasing. Definitely have to do, well, maybe not. Let me look. Let me think here. We can eliminate A and we can eliminate C. And so then we know that our points, oh, well, no, we don't really have to do much calculations here. So we're looking at a point slope form that points us through the, and is parallel. So that means we want to use the same slope that we want to use that's on the line P. So we've eliminated our answer choices based on our slope because we know our slope is positive. I guess I should have thought about that too because if they wanted perpendicular, I would have picked the negative slope. But so it's a good thing I read it, went back and read it. That's a good clue for you too to make sure you read what they want you to do. But we want it to be parallel, so I need to determine what this slope is. I'm going to go ahead and go through that y-intercept of 2. So I'm up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a rise of 4 and a run of 5. So that means my answer choice is going to be B. I don't have to do calculations to this either. This is just, again, function transformation. Remember when we're looking at function transformation, if it's inside the parentheses, it's going to be opposite what you think. Now, inside the parentheses is affecting the x value, not the y value. So C and D are all out because that is the y value. The y value changed, not the x value. Now, A or B is our answer choices. Remember, the value is going to be opposite what you think. So when that 7.2 comes out of the parentheses, it's going to become -7.2. So our answer is B. Now, worst comes to worst, you can actually go ahead and graph it in your calculator. And you can graph it here on your T84. And you can see how it changed from the parent function. And we have to do a little bit of calculations here. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to it. Have to definitely do the calculations on this one. This is probably one of your more quote-unquote difficult questions on last year's STAAR. This one we do not, as the domain. So domain is left to right. That's a minimum x value of -2. The only one has -2 in it is D. We are done. I don't have to do a lot of calculations on this. I'm going to eliminate a couple of my answer choices right off the bat. I can eliminate A because 16 divided by 4 is 4. So A is out and C is out. So now I'm looking at the K value. 9 minus 3 will give me 6. See how D has a K of 3? 9 minus 3 is 6. So our answer is B. We're done. I definitely have to do calculations for that one, and I'm going to come back. I can do easy calculations. Technically on this one, I can eliminate a couple of answer choices right off the bat. Because each one of these has two terms, most likely I'm not going to eliminate my A and my B. So now I'm looking at C and D. Now look here. C and D have the same coefficient of 13 over 2 with the x. So I don't even need to look at the x values on my adding like terms. They're looking for the perimeter. So perimeter means we're going to add up the outside. So I can just go to my calculator and I can do second y equals enter. That will allow me to put 5 over 6 plus, and then it is 1/3 second alpha y equals enter 1/3, and then it's minus alpha y equals 1/3, 1 at 6, enter. That gives me a value of 1, so that lets me know my answer is C. The reason I eliminated A and B is because I knew that each one of these expressions have two terms, so I know in my final answer I should have two terms. Not always the case, but I'm using my deduction and my reasoning. If it had come out to 0, then that would have told me that A or B would have been my answer. Yep, we have to definitely do, that's probably also one of those more challenging questions, so I'm going to skip it. Definitely have to do calculations on that one, so I'm going to skip it. This one we do not. It's a transformation function. It says transform to create the graph of G. So we're going from a slope of 1 to a slope of 1/2, so that means it is going to be less steep, the graph of G. Do be careful when that say what the wording is. Sometimes they'll say the graph of F in relation to G of X. So they basically want to talk about what the previous function looked like. So do think about that. Make sure you think about what they're asking you. And has a y-intercept, it is going to be higher because the original y-intercept is at 0. So on your answer choices, it is not the same. It is greater than. We got to do some calculations on that one, so we're going to skip it. Same with this one. Skip. This one we actually don't, so let's talk this through. I have a greater than or equal to symbol, so that's going to eliminate B, and that's going to eliminate C. The slopes are pretty much the same. The y-intercept is pretty much the same. The only difference between A and C is whether or not we're shaded above or shaded below. Now, the coefficient with the y is positive. That means that when I divide by y, our inequality symbol is not going to change. So that lets me know that whatever the y value is going to be greater than the values that on the right. So that means we want to shade above. So my answer choice is going to be A, not C. You can also double check this and plug in 0, 0, because as you can see, 0, the origin is not in the shaded region, and 0 is not greater than or equal to 2, and that lets us know that I don't want to shade that side of the graph. Got to do some calculations. I don't know if there's a solution on that one, so we're going to work on that one. Technically, I don't have to do any work on this. So this is a exponential function because we're talking about growth. So we're going to do our A value, and then I'm going to do times. And then our rate, since that's 2%, it's going to be 1 plus 2%, which is 1.02. Then I'm going to do my exponent. I'm going to click the exponent of x, and because this is an exponential growth function. And that's all you have to do on that one. I would have put parentheses, but they don't have a parentheses options on this toolbar, so I don't think they want you to use parentheses. Oh, wait, they do. Never mind, I was wrong. Probably would have been fine even if you did not put parentheses. I'm assuming most likely it would have given you correct. But this is how I would normally do it. And then exponent x. That's how it look. And then it should, technically, they should even let you put the times in there. Because ideally that would be even more correct. But they mean the same thing, so it's all right. Which one is a function for y of x? or B and D are most definitely out. They have a x value repeats. A x value repeats at -2, -2. So our answer is C. We got okay, so it says we have this function, and it represents the first of two equations in the system of linear equation. The second equation in the system has a different slope. If it has the same slope and same y-intercept, then it would be infinite solutions. If it had the same slope, then it would have no solution. But since we just have a different slope and the same y value, that means you will have exactly one solution. We got to calculate, so we're going to skip. Technically, we don't have to calculate this one at all. This is 4x squared minus 81. So at the top of your reference, this is a difference of squares. You have the first term, which is a perfect square, minus the second term, which is also a perfect square. So that would be in a difference of a perfect square. That would be 2x minus 9 times 2x plus 9. So again, we didn't have to do any calculations with that, and that was super easy. Difference of squares, you have a plus and a minus to remind you if you see on your reference sheet. We have to do minimal calculations for this, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it because the calculations are so quick and easy. I'm going to show you how I would anytime I talk to this, especially on a test. I'm going to take my calculator, go to y equals, and I'm going to put that equation, 3x squared minus 7, and then I'm going to go to second graph to look at my x values, and it says f of 4, so I'm going to scroll down to f of 4, whoops, blah, blah. I'm going to scroll down to f of 4. My y value is 41, so my answer is C. You can also do this on the Desmos graphing calculator as well. You would just need to go to look at the x value of 4. Yeah, it's a little bit harder to do it on the f of 4 because it's so high up at 41, because that'd be right there about 41. So it's probably easier just to use the TI-84 on that one. That's fine. We're looking at the domain. I can eliminate, please do this on the star and think about this so that you don't make the mistake. If we're looking for a domain, C and D have Y values. That is range. So a lot of times on the stars, they'll have questions like that. And you can eliminate sometimes, if not most of them, just by reasoning and seeing that they have X and Y. All right. So now both the A and B have a minimum value of 0. So I just need to look at my max X value, which is 12. So my answer choice is B. What is the y-intercepted line? Y-intercepted line is -2. All right, we have answered all of these questions without doing any calculations. I need to go back in the next video. I'm going to go back and answer these questions that I did not answer. So 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I only have 19 questions left that I did not do any calculations. So 50 minus 19 gives me 31 questions that I answered. So that did the first point of the test. I will see you on the next video where I'm going to go over the calculations.